Hello everybody and welcome back to the Overlap Breakdown channel. Now today we are here with a little bit of a different episode which is going to be scouting the perfect third midfielder for Manchester United, and in a time where the transfer links at the moment, at present, have somewhat come down, and we're going to try and sort out which midfielder in the market Manchester United should go for. So if you do enjoy the pieces, please do not forget to subscribe to the Overlap Breakdown channel. We are at 75% of viewers not subscribed, so chances are you are not. So if you do enjoy the pieces, please do not forget to hit that subscribe button for us, please. So, yeah, today we're here with a really big, action-packed, loaded video, and I'm going to try my best not to waffle, and trust me, I know it's hard, but we are going to cover 4 different midfielders today. At the time of recording, we are not linked to any other midfielders massively. We have seen little murmurings of Bruno Guimaraes and Zaire Emery of PSG and stuff like that. But the 4 we're going to cover today will be Alex Scott, Carlos Baleba, Manu Kone and Mamadou Sangare from Lens, who has been reported to be scouted by Manchester United by L'Equipe. So, yeah, I'm going to kick this right off by jumping in straight away with Alex Scott. Now, this is a player who Ben Jacobs has reported that Chelsea have had a £64 million bid swatted away. The Bournemouth midfielder is actually turning down the chance to sign an extended contract with Bournemouth, which holds a release clause in that contract. And when them situations occur, it usually means that the player does want a move. They want to not necessarily force a move, but do it in a way that's a little bit more, sensible. So I've been watching Alex Scott a lot, obviously, since the start of the summer. And this is a player I will straight away go on to describe as a mobile, technical midfielder. And to be honest, when you watch him, you do get the sense of he is an unbelievable English product, which is just such a good technician. But I want to caveat that by saying, when you get these types of players, and you get this mould of player, you usually think that they can't do the dirty work. That is not the case for Alex Scott. Obviously, under Andrey Santos, there is immense pressure being put on pressures, jumping out, second balls. And most of the time he plays in a 2-man pairing with like a Tyler Adams next to him. But he has mostly played in the build-up as that number 6. He's a player who likes to come and get the ball in these deeper areas, can push up into the final third. I've got a big table to compare these midfielders at the end of the video so you can see which ones rank higher in certain stats. But straight away, the bullet points I have down on him when I watched him on Wirescout over the last few days: use of his body in 1v1s is incredible. I'm talking about the way he gets his legs across. I'll go into explain in a minute what that looks like on the screenshots. Ability to step across with wide gait, can carry through traffic and wins fouls at a premium. Overall clean receptions of the ball in tighter spaces. I like the idea of him playing a number 6 or next to a number 6, somewhat of a 2-man tandem role, one up, one down. Likes to be mobile in front of the centre-backs and take control of the game. Can find gaps pretty easily. He's an active contributor on and off the ball. He's more robust and smarter in duels than I initially thought, with his timings and aggression to stepping up in the press. And he knocks balls into gaps to carry and protect and shield the ball away. He's very mobile in the ball into space. He's not so much of a sitting number 6 like Sander Berge. He's more of a give-and-go type player. I did a lot of research looking into Alex Scott's sort of upcoming when he was a footballer. He was playing grown men's football at the age of 16 for Guernsey FC. He obviously then had trials at Southampton, was let go, returned to Guernsey, and then got signed to Bristol City, where he actually became the Championship Young Player of the Season. And that was a Championship season where there were like so many good players. I think Wharton was in there, I think Hayden Hackney was in there, and he took the bait. So yeah, I think straight away I want to go into talking about some of the quotes he said. The biggest influence he said that Andrey Santos has had on him was definitely tactically. It improved me a lot as a player and take me to a different level. When I came in, my tactical understanding was pretty much nothing, and that is maybe why I didn't play as much. As tactically I wasn't good enough, and physically I probably wasn't at the level yet either. At times I didn't know when to go and press. I was worried about what's behind me all the time. He gives you that confidence, just go flat out and get defenders behind you, and you know they will come and press as well. That's probably his main strength, I'd say, as a coach, and it's a brilliant way of football. It's really exciting. Straight away, I think many Manchester United fans who are watching this video want to see Manchester United press more aggressively with more unison this season. Alex Scott is a player who's had that settling in period at Bournemouth where he was a little bit more of a slight, nimble, as you'd think when we talk about Alex Scott, that nimble midfielder, very technical but not a lot of robustness. But in terms of the way his game has developed, I'm talking physically, his stature, his shoulders, he's a lot more broad, he's a lot more aggressive into his duels, and he's just very much more favourable in those duels, and that is something that Andrey Santos has driven into him. But It's not just that, it's his carrying and it's his ability with the ball in tight spaces, which is the main selling point for me. I've got an example on your screen here against Sunderland of some brilliant work. You can see right here, takes it under pressure. He looks like he's going to pass it on to Adrian Truffert here at the left back. He's opened up his body. That's another good thing about Alex Scott. A lot of opening up, making the pitch big. He's not closing off his angles. We speak about this a lot with midfielders today because you want to access the most dangerous areas of the pitch. Looks to feint it and dummy it into the left back. He then actually turns back onto his right foot and takes 3 different Sunderland players out of the game, gets Bournemouth up the pitch and wins a foul in their own half to reset play. Now, if I want to talk to you about more of his body work and some of his smaller space stuff, this is an even better example against Aston Villa here. We can see that when he's approaching more of a defensive duel, he's set up, he's primed, he's ready to go, and he wedges himself between him, and I think it's Morgan Rogers, between the ball. He wins the ball, and then he gets pushed onto the line, and that is a really hard predicament to get out of. All the angles are shut off here. You don't really have many options, but his technical work, I'll try and zoom in all the way into this one because his footwork and his ability in them smaller spaces to find gaps to play out of is absolutely marvellous. And somehow he gets out of this. Bournemouth play a really well-worked, small-sided game. They get out of it, break through the pitch. So if I'm going to speak to you a little bit more about what he's able to do off the ball, because I think number one, when you think about Alex Scott, as we mentioned, there is a misconception with players of his profile that they can't do the hard work and they can't do the hard graft. He can. Another example on your screen here against Villa, this time away. This is him jumping out from that settled position when we were talking about what Iraola has taught him tactically of when to go and press high. We can see him jump out of midfield, and now he's up against Amadou Onana. Amadou Onana's not scanned around me. He's really aggressive on that back pressure, wins the ball high, carries it into the opposition's box, and wins a free kick just on the edge of the box right here. So, for me, he is a brilliant midfielder with the ball at his feet. I've not really got many examples to show you, but I do like his vertical passing. He's very much a vertical passer. I would say he definitely works with a 6, and I think he would work, like all these profiles, I think he would work with one of the other options on this list, more importantly. For me, Manchester United, this is going to be an £80 million premium midfielder. Going off the market examples, Bournemouth know what they're doing. They're looking at Elliot Anderson, they're looking at Sandro Tonali, Mateus Fernandes, and they will be comparing him to them players, and they're well within the right to do that. And at his age, with the experience he's already had at Bournemouth, the levels he's played at, obviously we mentioned before, Young Player of the Year in that championship season, he is going to be a player who will cost a premium, do not get me wrong, will cost a premium, but he's probably one of the more pound-for-pound better buys in the window. I would say I am very guilty of this. When I think about Manchester United's midfield and I think about Andrey Santos, Tielemans, Kobbie, Mainoo, I am straight away looking for that more defensive option. Now, I have tried to, challenge my biases, which is basically, can Manchester United sign a player like this to simply dominate games and to have that small space work, to have them constant solutions in the centre of the park? And with Alex Scott, he is a lot better, in my opinion, when it comes to being robust, when it comes to winning duels, when it comes to handling contact, when it comes to just pressing higher out of the block. That's something that Man United really struggle with in the centre. Sometimes it would be Mainoo who jumps out here, and he just didn't really have them legs to retreat really well or to fully convince his teammates when he comes through in the pressure. That's something that Alex Scott has developed massively. So I do think, yes, he doesn't have them outstanding physical attributes. He's not really tall, but I think he's like 5'11", and the grit he has is like that of a João Neves. That type of defensive contribution. The way he can wrap his legs around certain angles. He commits a lot of fouls. He gets fouled a lot, and he's really not afraid to do the dirty work. And I have to stress that enough. He's a really confident player on and off the ball, and he's a player who takes the ball in really, really tough spaces. And for me, that is someone who I think Manchester United could really do with, especially if we're talking about maximising Manchester United in a ball-playing sense, because he does have unbelievable work. So, last example on your screen right now. This was when he first joined Bournemouth. So this is talk about that confidence of playing in the Premier League. Gets the ball off the centre half and takes the striker out of the game. He takes it, opens it up on his left foot, steps through the pressure, goes through to midfield. What is he faced with? He's faced with a line of 5 of Fulham players. In this situation, you could imagine him passing maybe the ball to Ryan Christie. He could even work the ball to the left winger who's come inside over here. He could reset play. He doesn't do that. He wants to take them on. He takes on 2 Fulham players, breaks through into the final third, and all of a sudden he's attracting so many bodies with them carries, because he's arriving into dangerous situations, he's arriving into dangerous space, and he has that lure. But when the gates shut on him and when the pressure closes, he has that ability to play these little stabbed, knitted passes, which is almost like the pass before the pass that's the assist, if you know what I mean. He works out to the winger can cut it back into the box. And that is exactly what happens here. He frees up Justin Kluivert all the way on the left side. Look how many bodies are around him in the box for Fulham. And then he works it into Kluivert and he scores this goal. So for me, a very, very good option. One that is a premium, yes. He also, we have to always say this, he is an English midfielder. The amount of good reception. I remember Bristol City played Manchester City in the FA Cup at home. I think they got beat maybe 3-0. Could be wrong there. But Pep Guardiola said right after that game that Alex Scott is an unbelievable player. And he went out of his way to do that. So this is a player who coaches, managers, players understand the level of the cleanliness of his touches, of his work, his ability to conduct play, and he's more of a controller than you may think. He controls games better than you think. So for me, this is a really good option, one that I can imagine people being all over. And I think the big thing to always factor in, and I caveat everything with this, is don't look at him as this elegant player, because he's got the low socks, because he's so clean technically. This is a really robust central midfield player, a really, really all action, gets his hands dirty central midfield player. So yeah, a really, really good option this for Manchester United. I will go in to speak about other options now, but yeah, I think it makes sense for Alex Scott. It makes sense for Manchester United, and it makes sense for all the other clubs. For me, he does strike me as that sort of Zubamendi type player for an Arsenal or someone like that, and I can see why Chelsea are looking at him as well. So we're moving on to the next one, which is going to be Carlos Baleba. Now, this is a player who no one really knows how good Carlos Baleba is anymore. And I'm going to do my best to try and convince you, because when I've watched Carlos Baleba and I'm talking about what Manchester United need in that central midfield, trio to work and to maximise, for me, I still think this is the best option. And I know people may disagree with me, and I fully understand people disagreeing with me. But in my opinion, what I've watched, even in a season where he had a really poor season with Brighton, he was benched countless times, I'm going to do my best to convince you that this player is still one of the best options for Manchester United in the market. And for me, straight away, players don't get worse overnight. So the player that Manchester United were bidding for in the summer of last year is the same player. So we can't let this season, change our mind of his actual quality. We can let it change our mind of the valuation, and maybe him individually and psychologically. But this is a player who I've watched, and I cannot get over how well suited he is to playing for Manchester United in the current midfield that we're making. I've got two graphics on your screen right now. One of them is a high pressures graphic, and we can see straight away off this high pressures and counter pressures graphic on your screen from Opta, the amount of high pressures that are coming in the opposition's half. We mentioned before just how crucial them jumps out were from Alex Scott against Onana at Villa Park. Them high turnovers to be forced for Manchester United is where I think, if it's going to be Kobbie, Mainoo, Tielemans, Santos interchanged in there, you need another midfielder who excels at jumping out, because I don't think all of them midfielders are above average in terms of above average. So they may be like a little bit above average, but they're not like in the good and great element of this. Carlos Baleba is, right, and I'm telling you now, he is. And I've got another example on your screen, another graphic on your screen. Defensive actions from Carlos Baleba, 156 made last season. Again, look at how many are in the opposition's half. Manchester United, in my opinion, always need to have this thing. If we get into this shape, say we move up the pitch like this, and we get into our shape like this, and we're trying to flood the box, and we're boxing teams in, what he does is stops everything coming back the other way. His speed across the grass to win duels consistently, and I'm talking a ridiculously high consistency. We was watching, I'm going to show you examples in a minute, the players that he's got the physical edge over, the players he's bouncing off the ball, the challenges he's winning, the gap between him and a dribbler when he hunts them down. This type of player, for me, is what maximises Manchester United's midfield. And I'm going to explain to you why that is the case, okay? Against Aston Villa here, we can see this is a more, that's a carry through pressure actually. I'm going to go down into a high jump pressing situation. First 2 minutes against Arsenal at home for Brighton. We can see that Carlos Baleba has pushed up right onto Mascara. They're looking to work it out and they actually find Declan Rice for this example. Baleba across the grass, first 2 metres, rapid. Nips in front, carries it through to the Arsenal penalty area, and he goes to dink David Raya, and it's actually cleared off the line here for Arsenal. Again, same game. High jump pressing situation. This is a second one against Arsenal. Arsenal, long ball comes, Hincapié looks to head it away, the ball comes back the other way, and you can see every screenshot I'm taking of Baleba, his profile on the pitch is blurry, because he's moving literally all the time, so fast to these loose balls. The ball drops, he's then on like a rash to Gabriel Martinelli, wins the ball high, carries it through to the opposition's half. Brighton get a chance from that. Again, same game against Arsenal. This is a minute later. Ball is worked out to the side for Hincapié. Carlos Baleba is 3, maybe 4 metres. Jumps out, goes and hunts down the man, sticks him on the byline, wins the ball, gives it to Jorginho Ruta, and they can have a direct counter-attacking situation against Arsenal's unsettled defence. If I think about Manchester United, if I think of we got played through too easy, I think it's that for me. We have to stop teams from playing through us so easily. And if I look at Kobbie Mainoo, I look at Tielemans, if I look at Andrey Santos, when we analyse them all, they are some of the better passers in the Premier League, in my opinion, in their positions. Youri Tielemans is unbelievable at snapping lines, creating chances. But when that ball comes back the other way, when Bruno Fernandes has whipped a ball in and it's headed away, who's going to hoover up the loose balls? And for me, when I look at all these options, this is the man. This is the man for me. And I know what people say about his ability on the ball, and I will go on to talk about that in just a second. But this is a man who can do this both high and low. So when Manchester United sat low under Michael Carrick in a 4-4-2, Kobbie Mainoo and Casemiro were protected and they looked great, okay? They looked great because they are jumping out over smaller distances. They're not jumping out over 30 metres, 20 metres of grass. So again, I've got an example here, Anfield, and keep in mind, all the examples I'm showing you here are against Champions League opposition. One of them against the title winners, this is against the past title winners, and then I'll go and speak about a Villa example. These are really good teams that he's doing this against, all from last season, in a season where you could say he wasn't at his best. And in my opinion, we should not pay that premium that they wanted the summer before because his price has come down. And I'm not overlooking that. I'm not overlooking the first half substitution at Goodison away. I'm not overlooking when he got booked and hooked in the first game or the second game of the season. I'm not overlooking any of that, okay? Because I do agree. Again, example here, 4-4-2, deeper block. The ball is worked into McAllister. Again, we're talking about jumping out of that block, using them legs. Jumps out the block, Carlos Baleba. He wraps his leg around McAllister. So McAllister's gone to show him his backside and keep him away from the ball. Baleba has got them limbs where he can wrap around and poke the ball out. It ends up in a loose ball. Brighton, direct counter-attack at Anfield. These are the type of situations we need to see more of from Manchester United because when we defended low, one of Manchester United's best attributes last season under Michael Carrick was the ability to turn turnovers into goals and into great scoring opportunities. For me, the midfielders we've signed play the pass, but the problem is who's winning the ball back to give it to the passers. That's where my issue comes with the midfielder that Manchester United are looking at. And I do understand people going, we can just hold the ball in there. We can just create. We could just have 70% of the ball. Eventually, the ball is going to come the other way. And at the moment, at the time of recording, the centre-backs and the full-backs, they are not tier 1 athletic players. They are not, in my opinion. So this is a type of midfielder that I think Manchester United need to look at as a profile and as a physical archetype to bolster and to put the other midfielders on a pedestal and to put them in a different sort of level. Because if we're not winning the ball back, what will happen is them midfielders will get tasked to do that constantly and they won't arrive there. They'll be too late. And I think for the sake of the rest of the team, this is why the third midfielder is so crucial. You either need to think about, A, can you get someone who can dominate the ball? Can you get someone who can win the ball back? Or can you get someone who can do both? So for me, I'm looking at it and I think Baleba isn't as good on the ball, but I think his ball winning is top tier. And what I'm going to explain to you now was, he played a game at Stamford Bridge where he scored and assisted. One of them from a hunt-down, high-pressing situation on Chelsea's build-up. And in that game, that was the best version of Baleba I'd seen, right? And he played in a 4-3-3 ahead of a number 6 in Mats Weifer. So what I'm talking about, when I'm talking about Baleba signing for Manchester United, I agree with a lot of people who say Carlos Baleba isn't technical enough on the ball to come and get the ball and play in there. The good thing is, we've signed 2 players who are unbelievable at that. So if you can imagine a Carlos Baleba playing in here ahead of one like this frees up what I'm about to tell you right now and what I'm about to show you. Because I think truly Baleba is more of a give and go, attack into space, run into space, carry the ball, win the ball back, recycle the ball, get ahead. Okay, that's what I think he is. So again, right here, situation for Brighton against Aston Villa. Gets the ball on the half turn, opens up his side, opens up his right foot, lets it run across him, runs into the centre of the pitch. What has he got ahead of him? He's got Boubacar Kamara and Amadou Onana, 2 more defensive-minded midfielders, 2 very good midfielders. This is where Baleba can be unlocked at Manchester United. He taps the ball through, and I'm telling you, his first few yards are so fast, so fast. He has the ability to knock it through the pressure, goes between the 2 midfielders, breaks into the final third. This is a type of situation on your screen right now we've seen so much at Manchester United last season. So imagine them occurring even more with Baleba in there. Breaks into the final third, gives it to the winger, Brighton attack directly in the box with a 4v4. This is where I think Manchester United need to be looking at as to be like, who is going to maximise our midfield, our forwards, and our actual team more? Because when I watch Baleba, the problems I have with him is that when he receives the ball off the centre-backs like this, and Brighton ask a lot of him in these situations, I've never viewed Carlos Baleba as that Alex Scott type of midfielder, that Mainoo midfielder who's going to take it in there, open up his body. He plays quite closed often. If he's the deepest midfielder, he plays with his shoulders inwards, facing the ball. That is, for me, where he can be freed up with a player like Andrey Santos, Tielemans, Kobbie, Mainoo, because you can free him up to play ahead of one and break and jump out, high press, get the ball, play off the fullback like we just seen. You've got defenders behind you, you've got a midfielder behind you, okay, take it in there, face up, run forward with the ball. That's what I think Baleba would offer you at Manchester United, alongside, in my opinion, elite ball winning, elite. And I'm not sure how far I'd go with paying for him. I'm not sure how far I would go, but spoiler, this is my choice for Manchester United's midfield. And I will say that. And I think in the midfield market, not many people need a Baleba type right now, currently. And I think United should be in there. They've got the 3 in there who can dominate, working the ball in tight spaces. Baleba's one-touch work is actually good. His longer range passing, not so much. He's receiving on the edge of the box, not so much. That won't be asked of him. So limit weaknesses and emphasise your qualities. That's what we want to do. And for the midfield, for all of the midfielders, he does that. Not just for himself, but for the other 3 in there too. So, yeah, I'm going to move on. I hope I did my best to convince you there. But now we're going to move on into a similar type of midfielder in Manu Kone. Now, this is a player who I'm really intrigued by. In the World Cup, I watched him, and I hadn't watched him since Mönchengladbach. And in that division, he was a ball-carrying genius. When I watched him, he was long-legged, brush through traffic with his arms. And for France, he played a little bit more of a different role. And Deschamps had a lot to say about him. So I've got loads of quotes to talk about here. And I'm going to start off with some of the more positive ones. So obviously Deschamps, after their win over Iraq in the 2026 World Cup, said he's a very good player with many qualities. His work rate and ball recoveries are excellent. Remember what we said with Baleba in terms of that long leg, then recoups? That's what we need. Okay, so it makes sense. More recently, Deschamps praised Kone after he started a couple of games in midfield. They bring balance in midfield. They're more important in winning the ball back and when we press high and supplying our attacking players with the right service. So straight away, you'd think that this is a really good profile. Now, I went and watched him for AS Roma in the season just gone, and I wasn't that impressed with him. I do think they don't suit the way he plays. And he still has qualities, don't get me wrong. But he plays better for France when we're talking about a team who boxes in another team, plays high, jumps high, plays ahead of a number 6. That's where I think he can play. Some of the more notes I've got on him, I'm not too sure on him receiving first under pressure on the edge of his box. This was a situation where Roma asked a lot of him to do. They asked him to drop in quite a lot. I don't view him like that. Takes too many touches under pressure to sort his feet out. He's got a decent arm across when running through traffic, but he can become quite tunnel vision. And I'm talking about overemphasizes his carry, so sometimes he continues carrying through, so he'll beat a man and then wants to do a little bit too much. Not very fast player on the ball, likes to hang on to the ball a lot. Stature is impressive and the use of his legs in duels is really good. Transitions at pace is a lot of ball watching. This is something he got hit with a lot after the Spain game. In the Serie A, it was quite similar because he jumps quite aggressive and quite high for both club and country. And when the ball comes back the other way, it almost feels like he's not screening the defence and he's not, shuttering out this space here. It almost felt like he was running ahead of the play like this, jumping high on someone. And when the ball come back the other way, he was jogging. And then by the time the opposition were on here, he wasn't behind the ball. That's something that for me in the Serie A doesn't really stand out as... It stands out as a big weakness in my game. So I think about how fast and intense the end-to-end pressures are. But then I look at Deschamps' quotes and I'm like, he's talking about his constant work rate and ability to win the ball back. So don't get me wrong, this is a player who I've really enjoyed watching. I didn't keep up with him when he was in Italy, but in the Bundesliga, he was really, really good. And I think he suits a little bit more of a scrappier game, maybe. A little bit more of an open game, if you say. So I've got his coach at Toulouse, and he said, when I had him, you could see his incredible talent. He was very young, but it was presumptuous to say I had already envisioned him in the French national team, but I knew he was going to have a good career. It was more his relationship with football that he needed to evolve. In his early days, he was too focused on enjoying the game and not on the efficiency. In his early days, he would wander off the pitch to nutmeg someone. In Germany, at Mönchengladbach, he found his style of football perfectly suited to him, one that attacks in every direction. So this is more what I'm saying in terms of he's a very big ball carrier, loves a lot of ball carries. I've got a progressive ball carrying map on your screen right now. You can see a lot of them dribbles coming down that left central midfield position, running in like that. Another thing to also caveat with Manu Kone, I'm not really sure on the reported fee, and this is always what we got to take into it, is the pound for pound worth of each player. His injury history is really bad. He had a hamstring injury this season, another muscular problem, another hamstring injury, another muscle fatigue at Mönchengladbach. He torn a muscle fibre that kept him out 4 games, had another couple of muscular injuries, had a knee injury, had an inner ligament injury. So there are recurring injuries right here. I mean, at Roma just entirely, I think I've got here that he missed 13 games. So is this a player who you might not actually get your worth for your money, depending on how much you're going to pay for him if he's constantly out injured? But yeah, we're going to move on now into some screenshots to tell you what I mean a little bit about him. Don't get me wrong, I'm being really harsh on him. I think I'm being harsh on him because he plays in the Serie A. And I think when I watch someone in that league, I really want them to dominate, especially physically. And I'm not like slagging the Serie A off or anything, but I didn't see him really dominate that division. And I really thought from the player I've seen at Mönchengladbach, he was going to be someone who can run through pressure, arms out through pressure, take a couple people on, win a lot of fouls. But this is more so what I mean when I'm talking about some of the weaknesses. Against Atalanta, he receives the ball inside 20 minutes and he's outside the block. Now, straight away, his idea is to run into space. Now, what he's running into right here, he's got 2 players on the left wing and he's running into a space where there's no real support around him. He takes too long on the ball. This is what I'm telling you. He doesn't see things really fast. He takes too many touches, and then gates again, then walls, they close in. They come towards him. He takes too long. He tries to carry it through 2 players. He loses the ball. And Atalanta counter-attack against Roma and should score from this chance. So this is what I'm saying. When he looks to break forward a little bit more, I'm thinking about the time you're going to get in the Premier League on the ball. I just don't like the amount of touches he takes. I will caveat this by saying one really big positive about him that I did find and I did really like, it was something that Deschamps also said, was them destructive second balls and them abilities on the defensive transition when he's sat in. When he's pressing high and he's retreating, not so much. But in that sort of settled possession, when you're just in your defensive block like this, when you're just in your defensive block like that, and you're just defending a little bit higher up the pitch, I did like his destructiveness. So we can see here, Juve look to play through the lines and they work it really well 6 minutes in. Manu Kone's on the shoulder. Again, we were talking about that Baleba typed wrapped leg around the sides. He has that quality with them legs. He can wrap his legs around. He gets the legs around, looks up, and he's able to fire a ball through the lines. I think this work is really good. That works really good. Another example on your screen right now, again, in this Juve game. He's on the ball right here, and we can see, takes the ball, looks to smack it through the lines. Really nice pass between the lines, by the way. He does actually have a pretty good eye for passing in terms of, doesn't really get it that much in the better positions, which is more ahead of a number 6 like that. But when he does, he can find these gaps, especially these right-footed angled sort of diagonal passes through the gaps like this. He can find them. Works it really nicely between the lines. Roma then lose the ball from his pass, so someone else has lost it after he's passed it along. And then Juve look to transition on him. Manu Kone steps in wide gate, so I'm talking about lunging across with them legs. I'm talking about covering enough space. Covers the space around the dribbler, plucks it out. He can then go again, recycle possession, gives it to the attackers. They're in. Again, another example, defensive recoveries and duel winning on his screen. This is talking about when the goalkeeper of the opposition team has fired the ball all the way into your half. The header's won, then we're looking for them second ball knockdowns. We can see how far away he is from the ball in this situation. He recovers so much space. Napoli player thinks he can bring it down. Again, stabbed a little tackle from Manu Kone, wins the ball, passes the ball forward. So I think when I'm talking about Manu Kone, I think he's very much a player who can win the ball, pass it forward. His progressive carrying is something that I always valued him for, especially in Germany. I always valued him for. I do think he's more someone who can break up play and play a really fast, pass between the lines for an unsettled defence. So maybe in some cases, depending on the fee, that is more like what Manchester United want in there. Maybe they want someone who can win the ball, pass the ball, get the team up the pitch. And if that is the case, then yes, because I don't really like him taking too many touches here. I'm not going to really compare him to Ederson of Atalanta, but he has that similar too many touches, just too many touches on the ball, too nonchalant on the ball in terms of left foot, right foot, let me look left, let me look right, and then before you know it, everything's closed off, everything's shut off, and he just has to give it back to the centre half. I don't really like that. Baleba also does that in the deep possession. But again, same caveat for him. Can we remove him from them situations, get him higher, so he's literally a cog that can win the ball back and pass the ball forward? Maybe so, depending on the fee. So, yeah, good player. Really liked him for France, which is why I was a little bit more disappointed when I went to watch him at Roma. But maybe it could be a case of Roma aren't as good as France, and maybe we are obviously better than Roma. So can we maximise him with putting him around better players, putting him around more runners? Because Roma don't really have that. They don't really have a lot of movement ahead of the ball. And for me, he strikes me as a player who wants to move with the ball and move with his team up the pitch. So yeah, we're going to move on now into the last player, who is a little bit more of a wild card option. A player who I wanted to watch in depth for a while, and a player who will for sure definitely be in the Premier League in the next coming years. And that is Mamadou Sangare of Lens. 23-year-old Malian midfielder, played a lot in Austria, and as a player, he's very, very inexperienced. But I've got to say, this lad is quality, like unbelievably good. When I was watching him, I think you think of what he could be good at, and what he was good at actually blew me away. And it's just the way he uses the ball. I think this is one of the better ball players in the market. He's left-footed. He's very left-footed. I will say that, similar to Baleba again. Very, very left-footed. A little bit of angle bias. Really likes to open up angles on his left foot all the time. But technically, on the ball, he's incredible. Like, honestly, he's carrying. He's got some like really nifty footwork. He loves a step over. He loves a chop in midfield. He's not as physically imposing as you may think. He's just under 6 foot, but he's a very nippy character. He's someone who likes to step out on the ball, someone who likes to conduct play, someone who is comfortable playing in front of the defence like this. And I've got to show you this example, because this is the first thing I watched when I was actually going to look at him. Ball is played in against Marseille to the midfielder. He jumps out of a more settled position, turns the ball over, and then he's got a 1v1 against someone. Few step overs, knocks it to the right, gets past him, and then plays a trivela. And then, we're talking about his bias on his feet here, how left-footed he is. He would rather play a trivela on his left foot here than play an in-swinger with his right foot. Chooses to be the perfect technique. Trivela drops in behind the defence, and Lens score from this. It was quite amazing what I was watching, to be honest. Technically, what I was watching was amazing on the ball. Again, I've got another example here against PSG. And this PSG at home game, he was absolutely incredible. He ran rings around that midfield, and I'm being deadly honest when I say that. Gets the ball off the right back here. He looks to take in Vitinha and he's running over to the right hand side. So if you can imagine, this is him. He's won the ball comes in, and then he's got Vitinha and he looks to just run over to the line like this, and then he cuts back straight away. And we're talking about that like flexibility within his hips. He checks back. He sort of like, he has Vitinha really. He sends him. He feints away, opens up that angle on his left foot, and he plays a lovely sweeping ball right through the lines to snap it into Lens' attackers. I mean, more carrying under pressure. These are all against PSG. Receives the ball off his man. He rolls it onto his left foot. He actually drops Kvaratskhelia onto the floor, and then again, he's faced with 3 line of midfielders ahead of him for PSG. Runs through, breaks through, gives it to the attacker, and then they're in. For me, the problems with Sangare, unfortunately, come in his dueling technique. I think about like Baleba and Manu Kone. When they get into the duel, they are very efficient, in my opinion. They do win the ball back so much, and they win it with genuine conviction. And if they don't win it, they're not giving up a lot of space where they lose the duel. Mamadou Sangare is a little bit more of a player who I thought was weaker in the duels, a little bit more of a rash player, very inexperienced, of course. I'll throw a couple of screenshots on your screen right now just to explain what I mean by this. But he doesn't use his arms a lot in duels. So what I mean is, like, when he's going up to play a 1v1 against someone, he just wraps his legs across and he doesn't really look to get his arms across, and he plays with his arms down, and it really disadvantages him in the duel, because usually you'd see like Baleba, Manu Kone, players of that ilk, even Rodri, they use their arm to like brush them aside and get in front of the ball. He really, really loves that idea of stabbing with his legs and sweeping and scooping the ball away with his legs, but he just doesn't physically impose himself enough as he should in terms of getting across and, you know, shunting them out of the duel. So them screenshots on your screen right there are just little examples that I picked up on where he's vacated his space, and sometimes he's gone all the way out to the side and he's played in the deeper midfield, and he doesn't get his legs across and they can just roll him, and then he leaves really big spaces open in front of the defence. He's someone who's a little bit more, he should be an 8 ahead of a 6. As like I said, these players all kind of mesh with one another. Someone who's a bit of a stopper behind him, but a really, really talented player. Like, when I was watching him, I was like, I couldn't believe how actually good he was on the ball. I was quite shocked, and I watched him in European games against PSG, both games, and just the cleanliness of his work on the ball. I'm not sure if it was just because he was left-footed, because he just looked better, but the angles he was playing at, the rhythm he was playing at, not a lot of touches, very good pace on the ball. Just a really, really solid option. And for someone who may not cost what you think in the market, he would be a great addition to a Premier League club. Maybe has to go to someone, unfortunately, before they go to an elite club, which is always the case. But I would keep your eye on Mamadou Sangare, someone who honestly, for me, is wonderful technically. And I think if they're put in more of a mid-block system where maybe like a Nottingham Forest, maybe like a Crystal Palace, someone who's going to defend a little bit deeper in them smaller spaces, because his aggression and his tentativeness and his actual timing is really good. It's when it's them longer distances and he has to go and reach out and he gets a little bit too touch tight and a little bit too rash, he doesn't favour himself massively in them duels. So that's where I see a little bit of a weakness with him. And when I think about Manchester United, unfortunately, we can't really afford that. So yeah, but I really do like him. A really, really, really good player, and one that will definitely come to the Premier League and probably smash it. But yeah, I had to cover him just simply because I really wanted to sign that Liga and midfielder, that ball-winning midfielder. But he is a pure technician, a really good technician at that as well. So yeah, as we've wrapped up now, I'm just going to throw it up on your screen right now. I have gone out of my way to compare all 4 of the midfielders we've looked at today on a graphic for you on your screen right now. So we can see Baleba, Manu Kone, Mamadou Sangare and Alex Scott all put together in a list per 90, and in green is the stats that they trumpet for. Mamadou Sangare actually looks like he's got the most with Alex Scott. We can see that he plays most passes forward, most chances created, his dribble success rate's the best, and his tackles, interceptions and possession won are better than any of the other midfielders on this list. So maybe it is Mamadou Sangare, maybe it is, because maybe the data is not lying here. But I do think on this list, it's quite funny because I'm going to go with the one that's got the least amount of green on there. But I'm thinking of who maximises Manchester United's midfield the most. And I think that's someone who wins the ball and gives the ball, and someone who can play a little bit further up and break into space. And personally for me, I think that is Carlos Baleba. And it's just my opinion. But I just look at what the other three midfielders in their weaknesses are. And I just think we need the legs. And I think when you think about it, every single Manchester United fan goes, we need someone with legs in there though, don't we? We've got all the passing now. We need someone with legs. And maybe we can go in the Premier League next season and dominate games and hold 60, 70% of the ball. But the ball's got to come the other way eventually. And if your counter-press isn't good enough and you've not got the most athletic defenders, which we don't, then someone has to be stopping them balls coming through in the centre. And for me, that player has to, in my opinion, should be Carlos Baleba. I think his dual winning success rate is just a better conversion than the midfielders out there. And I think we can mask some of his weaknesses under pressure on the ball, receiving in front of the defence. Because in the game that I watched again at Stamford Bridge, when he played ahead of a number 6, he looked a completely different player and one that you would see at Manchester United if platformed correctly. So I think the balance has to come. I don't think, and I really wish I could sit here and say just sign 3 of the best passing midfielders and we could dominate the game. I really wish that in my mind that was a thing that I was looking at and going, that's possible. I don't think it's possible. I just don't think it's possible. I think in the Premier League, I do think you get bullied in a lot of games. And I'm saying this after PSG have won the Champions League against Arsenal, of course. But they have still quality physicality, whether it's in the back line, whether it's at fullback, whether it's in the wing, whether it's João Neves. They have physical quality. Manchester United aren't blessed with that. So we need that in the centre where the most of the attacks come through. So, yeah, thank you very much for watching. If you did enjoy, please don't forget to like, comment and subscribe to the Overlap Breakdown channel and let us know who you'd sign for Manchester United in midfield and whether or not it's a player that we've actually not covered today. And stay tuned for more analysis next week. Thank you.
This has been a Global and the Overlap production.